Welcome to the Healing Revolution podcast, where we challenge the status quo of conventional healthcare and explore the boundless potential of holistic healing. I'm your host, Nicole.
And I'm your other host, Isabel. Here we'll delve into the power of neuroscience, the wisdom of ancient Chinese medicine, the intricacies of epigenetics, and the profound impact of nutrition and spiritual mentoring. Join us as we uncover the secrets of holistic health, empower you with knowledge, and inspire you to take control of your well being.
This is more than a podcast, it's a revolution in how we understand and achieve health. Let's embark on this journey together and revolutionize the way we heal. Welcome back to the Healing Revolution. Today, I'm diving into part 2 of our discussion on how muscle testing can help uncover the root causes of health issues, beyond symptoms, beyond diagnosis, and straight to the real imbalances. Last episode, we covered a lot, but I wanted to go deeper into a few areas, especially how our bodies interact with food and supplements, and why some foods or supplements that seem healthy might not actually be a good fit for your body. We touched on a lot of key concepts, like how everything in the body operates at a specific frequency, why quick fixes don't truly work, and how muscle testing differs from traditional diagnostics. I wanted to continue the conversation and explore the topic around food sensitivities, food and supplement compatibility, and nutrient deficiencies. So, today, let's take things a step further. We're going to recap the most important points from last time and then expand on something I see people struggle with all the time: food and supplement compatibility. If you've ever wondered why you react to certain foods, why some supplements seem to work for some people but not others, or how muscle testing can help you understand what your body truly needs, this episode is for you. Have you ever wondered why a food that's considered healthy doesn't make you feel great? Or why certain supplements work for some people but seem to do nothing or even make things worse for others? And what if I told you that some food sensitivities aren't actually true allergies, but rather signs of a deeper nutritional deficiency or imbalance? Your body already knows what it needs. The key is learning how to listen. And that's exactly what we're going to do today. So, whether you're dealing with food sensitivities, supplement confusion, or just wanted to understand your body better, this episode is going to change the way you think about nutrition and healing. Let's get into it. So, to recap last week, we talked about energy and how everything is energy. And according to quantum science, everything that makes up the universe, including ourselves, is 99.999% energy and 0.001% matter. And here's why this matters for healing. Your body has an energetic field. Every organ, every gland, and system operates at a specific frequency. So, for example, a healthy human body resonates at 62 to 70 hertz. The heart also has a frequency of 67 to 70 hertz. The thyroid, 62 to 68 hertz. The liver, 55 to 60 hertz, and so on. Pathogens also have frequencies. So, for example, we mentioned viruses. They operate at around 40 hertz, which is lower than what a healthy human body operates at. So, you can imagine how a virus can lower your body's frequency. Now, when your body is depleted or operating at a lower frequency, it becomes a better environment for pathogens. And I shared last week how the best advice I got early on in my healing journey was, instead of focusing on killing the bad, focus on raising your body's frequency so pathogens can't thrive. And this shift in my mindset completely changed my approach to healing. So, how do we change our frequency? Food, supplements, mindset, detoxification, movement, breathwork, emotional regulation, spiritual healing, which I personally think is one of the most important, and other lifestyle changes. And while that all sounds beautiful and empowering, let's be real, it also takes time, patience, and some shoulder work, which leads me into my next recap point: why quick fixes don't work. Healing isn't about suppressing symptoms, it's about changing the environment of the body. If there were truly a quick fix for chronic illness, we'd all be healthy. But true healing isn't linear, and it rarely happens overnight. One of the reasons I love muscle testing so much is because it helps identify what your body is missing, rather than just throwing something at symptoms and hoping something sticks. Like when you're cooking pasta, and to see if it's done, you take a piece and you throw it at the wall, and if it sticks to the wall, it's a sign that it's done cooking. It's the same thing with your health. You don't want to just try new supplements or try new diet protocols and see if it works for you. You end up spending more money and time and effort and energy in the long run. So, what I found both in my own journey and in working with clients is that once you uncover and address the root causes, the body can actually heal quite quickly. So, yes, in a way, it feels like a quick fix, but it's one that leads to long lasting results, not just temporary relief. And healing can feel quick once the right issue is being addressed, but it still takes time and intentional effort to get there. Something that I always advocate for, and I even enjoy when clients do this, is ask why. Asking why is everything. You need to be your own advocate when it comes to your health. If you're only treating symptoms, you're never getting to the real problem. So let's take inflammation, for example. Inflammation isn't the root cause, it's the body's response to something deeper going on. So we need to ask, is the root a pathogen, a deficiency, a toxicity? Is it an organ or gland imbalance? I'll give you a quick story. So, I had a client come to me with a diagnosis of rheumatoid arthritis. Now, hearing that, most people jump to an anti inflammatory protocol, focus on calming the inflammation, load up on turmeric, bromelain, and follow a strict anti inflammatory diet, maybe the Mediterranean diet, for example. But that approach focuses on the diagnosis, not the person, and definitely not the root cause. Through muscle testing, we discovered that her root issue was actually a retrovirus that was creating chronic inflammation. Now, again, I can't diagnose, so this is what we've detected energetically. So instead of targeting the inflammation itself, we focused on supporting the retrovirus. And once we did, her inflammation and symptoms began to improve naturally. And this is what I mean when I say treat the person, not the diagnosis, find the root, not just the remedy. It's important to note that since only licensed doctors can diagnose and treat, in holistic medicine, we focus on support. So, while we can't diagnose or treat a condition holistically, we can identify potential root causes and support it with the right diet, supplements, and lifestyle changes. Now, let's talk about where muscle testing fits in alongside traditional diagnostic methods and where it really shines. So, blood work and imaging are great tools. They give you a snapshot of what's happening in the body at a specific moment in time. But here's the thing, they often don't tell you why your symptoms are happening, and that's the gap muscle testing helps to fill. I always say that all information is valid. Blood work can be incredibly helpful for context clues. In fact, I love when clients bring their labs. When we integrate those results with what I find through electromagnetic muscle testing, or EMT, it's like we're putting the final puzzle pieces together, and it helps us understand why the body is out of balance and what to do about it. But here's something I hear all the time: my labs are coming back normal, but I still feel terrible. That's because your body works hard to maintain balance. And as long as it has enough reserves, things may still look normal on paper, even when something is off. So by the time your labs show a red flag, that imbalance has often been there for a while. And that's where electromagnetic muscle testing, or EMT, becomes a game changer. It can pick up on subtle imbalances before they manifest into diagnosable conditions. I'm not only talking about things like fatigue or bloating, although, yes, those too, but I've also worked with people dealing with hair loss, insomnia, mold illness, digestive issues like IBS, constipation or reflux, autoimmune disorders, anxiety, depression, mood instability, hormonal imbalances, and hormonal conditions like PCOS and endometriosis, or even for infertility, skin conditions like eczema or acne, chronic infections, Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis, and even cancer, just to name a few. EMT helps identify what is driving those symptoms, so whether it's toxicity, an infection, an energetic mismatch, or a deficiency, we get to look under the hood, so to speak, in a way that traditional labs can't always offer. So I get this question a lot: how exactly does muscle testing even work? Well, last episode we talked all about this and we even gave a demonstration, so make sure you tune into that episode if you want to learn more. But for a quick recap, muscle testing is a neuromuscular biofeedback response that helps to detect imbalances in the body. It works on the subtle energetic level because our cells generate an electromagnetic field, and our nervous system and parts of our brain respond to everything in our environment with either a strong or weak signal through the muscles. That's basically the foundation of muscle testing. Your body naturally reacts to things that are either in alignment or out of alignment with your energy. So when something is supportive, your muscles hold strong, and when something is disruptive, your muscles weaken. Now, one important thing to understand is that muscle testing is a cooperative technique. The accuracy of the results depend on the state of the person being tested. Their electromagnetic field may be too charged or too depleted, which can interfere with the results. And this is why practitioners will neutralize the field first by rubbing certain acupuncture points like the thymus and mastoid glands to reset and stabilize the system before testing. And another big clarification is that it's not a test of strength, it's a test of resistance. You're not checking how strong someone is, you're checking how their nervous is responding to a specific stimulus. And I think Isabel and I had shared our stories last week where we'll be muscle testing our boyfriend and they are like trying to fight us, whatever we're trying to test for, they're trying to make sure their arm stays strong at all costs because they don't want to let their arm fall weak, as if, we're trying to test if we're stronger than them, which is not the case at all. So that's also why I personally prefer remote muscle testing, at least for now. It's also known as surrogate testing, and that's what I use in my practice, which we demonstrated in the last episode. When I use my own body to test on behalf of a client, I'm relying on my trained sensitivity to feel a break in my own muscle response, which, after years of experience, I can detect very clearly now. It also helps to remove the client bias or resistance that could skew results. But again, in person or remote testing, both are great, fantastic tools. I have plans to practice more in person testing in the future. But for right now, I've been trained in remote muscle testing. I think I shared a little bit last week about this, but for those that may not know my story, I started about 8 years ago when I got really sick with Lyme disease, and then I landed an internship with a holistic practitioner. And I really enjoyed my time with her. She actually, I mean, she didn't just do muscle testing, she also did different forms of biofeedback and energy healing. And she actually had a lot of clients in the NFL and the NBA, which I thought was really amazing. And so I learned muscle testing, specifically remote muscle testing, through her, just because she had muscle tested me and I didn't understand because I wasn't with her. She just had texted me and I was like, I don't know what that means. And so she explained it to me and I just thought that was so incredibly fascinating. So she actually taught me when I had interned for her, how to do it. And so I have been practicing just, family and friends. And then in 2023, I worked for a holistic nutritionist where I met Isabel, and you guys all hear us talking about him so fondly. It's Mark Mincola. So we learned his system in muscle testing, and I've since tweaked it a little bit, but it's honestly been such a game changer, not only in my own life, but for clients as well. So let's break down how remote muscle testing works because this part fascinates people, and I did get some questions since the last podcast. But if you want to see the actual demonstration, you might want to go tune into that episode. So, remote muscle testing is based on universal energetic laws, like the law of vibration, which says that everything in the universe vibrates at the molecular level. It also aligns with the concept of quantum entanglement, which basically means that energy is not limited by time or space. So, when I'm testing somebody remotely, I'm tapping into their energy field, even from a distance, through what's essentially a quantum connection. So, the best way I explain this to clients is that you have to think of it kind of like Wi Fi. You can't see it, but it's what allows us to connect across space. And our energetic field works in the same way. Since everything is energy, your body, your organs, your thoughts, the food you eat, the supplements you take all have a unique frequency. And when performing remote muscle testing, I'm simply reading the energetic field of the client and using my own muscles to detect responses. So it's not magic, although it may seem like that to some, but it's science. And unlike other energetic medicine practices, the client is not giving or receiving energy when we are muscle testing from a distance. Something that I also think is important to know is MRIs, ultrasounds, and EKGs are also forms of energetic biofeedback testing. The difference is that electromagnetic muscle testing reads the body's subtle energetic responses in real time using the nervous system's language. So now that we've cleared up all that, let's dive into one of my favorite applications of muscle testing, and it's figuring out what foods and supplements are actually compatible with your own body. We hear a lot about quote unquote healthy foods and quote unquote top rated supplements. But just because something is healthy in general does not mean that it's right for you. That's sort of the theme of today's episode and of this podcast as a whole, if you haven't noticed already. But that's individual healing. And that's where muscle testing comes in. Let's talk about food and energy and supplements and energy for a moment. So, everything, as I had mentioned, has an energetic field that includes food, and that energy can either be supportive or disruptive to your body's frequency. Food can be filled with good energy or bad energy. And so, the food choices you make literally impact your energetic state. And you can kind of see how this starts to come full circle. The same goes for supplements. They also carry an energetic imprint. And it's not just about what's on the label, it's about the quality and sourcing, which ultimately affects the energetic resonance of the product. Supplements are not regulated by any governing body, which makes taking supplements sort of questionable to a degree, right? Some low quality brands are manufactured overseas with little to no third party testing, and others may be contaminated with heavy metals, glyphosate, and other harmful residues. Some are even petroleum based, which is wild to me because guess what else is petroleum based? Most conventional medications. So you may think you're consuming something healthy, but not all supplements are created equal. And that's why I'm extremely picky about what I carry in my store. And I'm always looking for brands that do third party testing. So I'll share a personal story about, taking a low quality supplement. I once took holy basil and then got cadmium toxicity. So that's how serious this can be. It's important to do your research and find high quality supplements because, like I had mentioned, not all supplements are created equally. So, again, it's not just about what a supplement is supposed to do, it's about how your body reacts to it and what it can do for you. Last week, we talked about how every person on the planet has their own energetic blueprint that is unique to you. And just like there is no one on the planet with the same fingerprint as you, the same goes for your energetic blueprint. And this is called constitution in traditional and classical Chinese medicine. And it's a huge part of how we understand what someone's body needs to function optimally. That's why our one size fits all medical system often falls short because it does not take bioindividuality into account. And since we're focusing on the energy aspect, because everything is energy, I refer to this as energetic bioindividuality. And that's something that Isabel and I have mentioned and have learned from Mark as well. So, just like our bodies have unique frequencies, so does food. Every food has its own energetic signature, as I mentioned. And just because something is considered healthy doesn't mean it's healthy for your body. So, for example, you could eat the most organic, high quality almond butter, but if your body isn't resonating with almonds, you'll react negatively. Someone else might thrive on a high fat diet, like keto, for example, while another person might feel sluggish and inflamed, and they actually might get something like gout from eating the same exact foods. There is not one person on this planet that has the same exact energetic makeup as another person. Even in twins, they have completely different energetic blueprints. So here's how muscle testing can help. So muscle testing allows us to stop guessing and start listening. It kind of fine tunes, what foods you should eat, what supplements you should take. It tells you what your body wants right now and which ones may be disruptive. And remember that your body's always changing. What works for you today might not work for you 6 months from now. We've been taught that with medications, we are supposed to take them for our entire life. And that's not the same for supplements. So you shouldn't be on the same supplement regimen for your entire life. That's always going to shift and change with your body as your body shifts and grows and heals. You're going to have different nutritional needs depending on where you're at in life, maybe even with the seasons. It always is changing. It's all about what the food can do for you, what properties certain foods contain that can help or hurt your condition. So for example, let's say someone is dealing with a viral issue. They may want to avoid certain foods like corn, chocolate, eggs, and even collagen because these are rich in arginine, which is an amino acid that strengthens viruses and can actually make symptoms worse. Or we could say that we'll say somebody's dealing with yeast overgrowth. They might need to avoid nuts, seeds, melons, and coffee because these foods are higher in mycotoxins, which encourage yeast. So, even though these foods that I listed are healthy, the properties in them may not be healthy for certain individuals. Let's say that I find through muscle testing that someone is dealing with gallbladder imbalances. They may need to steer clear of cold, raw, and sweet foods, as well as fatty foods, to help ease the load on their gallbladder and promote bile production. And before I go any further, these foods change all the time. So when I muscle test a complete food list for clients, it's not about permanent restriction, it's about supporting the body through healing. As their body shifts, heals, and rebalances, their food compatibility changes too. I've had clients, and actually this includes myself as well, that couldn't eat certain fruits or vegetables. And after working on their root imbalances, they're able to add them back without any reaction. And that's sort of what I love about this process because it's not just about labeling foods as good or bad, it's about being in tune with what your body needs right now. So we live in this society where we're so focused on what we can't do. You know, seed oils are bad, dyes are bad, glyphosate, all these other things that people are talking about right now and that we're so focused on is bad, 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 lack, lack, lack. It's all this stuff that is starting to cloud our minds, and it's causing a lot of negativity in the holistic world. And that's what the healing revolution means to us, is that it's important to focus on what you can do, because even in a world with such abundance of, food dyes, heavy metals, glyphosate, seed oils, all these awful things for our bodies, there's still so much out there that you can do to heal. And I don't know, I just love the process, because it's not just about good or bad, it's about what's right for you. Now, let's talk about supplements, because this is an area where a lot of people waste time, money, and energy trying to figure out what works for them. And here's the truth: just because a supplement is good for X condition doesn't mean it's right for you, even if you have the same exact condition. And just because it helps someone else doesn't mean your body will respond the same way. That's why I will always bring it back to supporting the root and not the diagnosis. The diagnosis could be endometriosis, but the root could be yeast. The diagnosis could be rheumatoid arthritis, but the root could be a virus. The diagnosis could be heart disease, but the root could be a deficiency in the small intestine. The diagnosis could be ADHD, but the root could be gallbladder inflammation. So it's important to note how certain pathogens and imbalances within the organs and glands could be manifesting into diagnosable diseases that doctors will give you so that you have an identity for your symptoms. And when you address the actual imbalance, symptoms can improve or even disappear. Supplements need to be selected based on what your body needs energetically and biochemically, not just what your diagnosis suggests. Supplements interact with your body's unique biochemistry in a very personalized way. So, if you have poor bile flow, for instance, you might struggle to absorb fat soluble vitamins like vitamin D, vitamin A, E, and K. So, just taking more vitamin D probably isn't going to help you until you address your gallbladder or liver first. A healthy gallbladder is important for proper drainage and maintains the pH balance of the body. So, if your gallbladder is imbalanced, you might have sluggish detox pathways where high dose supplements can actually overload your system rather than help it. This is where EMT becomes so empowering. It reveals whether a supplement is actually a good fit for your body at this moment, what the correct dose is, how long you need it, and how often you need to take it. I was actually laughing with my client the other day because in between our appointments, we're kind of on a maintenance plan right now, so I see her every 3 months. So she got really sick and she reached out to me. She had been sick for about 6 weeks with a really bad cough, really severe fatigue, and she had pain in her chest that just wouldn't go away. She went to every doctor and got several tests and scans done, and nothing came back. So through remote testing, I found that she was dealing with a viral infection, and within 2 weeks, with the supplements I tested for her, she noticed a significant improvement in her symptoms. But she asked me during that time when she was sick if she could take oil of oregano. And I told her, because I did test her for it, that it wasn't a strong response. So, in other words, it wasn't a high priority for her body in that moment in time. So, our oil of oregano is fantastic when you get sick, but it may not be exactly what your body is looking for at that moment, if that makes sense. So, she came in a few weeks later for her appointment, and she did test strong for oil of oregano. And she was like, "Are you kidding me? My body didn't want it 3 weeks ago, but now it does." And I'm like, "Your body was dealing with such a stressor back then, 3 weeks ago. It just needed something different." So yes, oil of oregano was fantastic, but it wasn't what she needed. But then when I retested her a few weeks later, it was exactly what she needed. And that's how dynamic healing is. Your needs shift as your body shifts. Another thing that I also test for is dose, duration, and frequency. Dose is how much to take, duration is how long you need to take it for, and frequency is how often it should be taken. Sometimes your body only needs a fraction of what's recommended on the bottle. Just because the bottle says 2 capsules daily doesn't mean that's what your body needs. So you might only need half the dose and only 3 days a week, or only once a day instead of twice. And that's the beauty of personalized healing, is that it's not a formula, it's not a protocol, it's your body's wisdom guiding the process. So that's why I'm so not a believer in these one size fits all protocols that these doctors and practitioners try to throw at people, because again, it's like throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping it sticks. It's just not the case when it comes to health. Let's wrap up with one of the most misunderstood areas in health right now: food sensitivities. More often than not, food sensitivities aren't permanent. In many cases, they're actually the result of deeper imbalances. and can actually be rooted in nutritional deficiencies. This is not always the case, but it's more common than people realize. And to be clear, this isn't just one reason why food sensitivities are on the rise. It's a combination of factors, but one of the biggest contributors is the way our food is produced today. Conventional farming practices have introduced pesticides, herbicides, and fungicides into our food system, and these toxins disrupt the body's natural processes. They interfere with digestion by disrupting enzymatic function. They overload our detox pathways. They disturb our endocrine system, which leads to hormone imbalances and even autoimmune diseases. They also introduce toxic heavy metals that can accumulate and affect brain function, like we see in conditions such as ADD, ADHD, Alzheimer's, etc. Add to that the increasing number of genetically modified and hybridized foods, like wheat, and you start to see the body can become reactive over time when it's already depleted. Always buy organic if you can, even better if you buy local, so you can avoid the chemical burden that comes with conventionally grown food. It's also more expensive, but I always tell people I'd rather spend more on food than on medical bills. I had a client recently who came to me with a lengthy list of food sensitivities. She couldn't eat anything with a husk, and even certain meats caused severe abdominal pain. Her diet was extremely limited, and it was affecting her quality of life to some extent. And through muscle testing, we found that the root issue wasn't actually a nutrient deficiency, it was a bacterial infection in her small intestine. So, in her case, we had to support the infection first before she could safely reintroduce those foods. Now, that's not super common, but it can definitely happen. Many food sensitivities are ties to nutritional deficiencies and enzyme deficiencies, but it shows you how important it is to not jump to conclusions or make blanket assumptions because every body is different. So let's get into some common allergies and what the nutrient deficiencies can be linked to. Let's take wheat allergies as an example because this one is everywhere right now. The wheat we eat today has been hybridized and altered through a process called deamidation, which changes the structure of its proteins. This new structure triggers an autoimmune response in many people, even those without diagnosed celiac, and many of them don't even know it. Conditions like osteoporosis, osteopenia, depression, anxiety, colitis, and other diseases have all been linked to wheat consumption. But what's more fascinating is that Dr. Donald Lepore found that allergies could actually be corrected by addressing nutrient deficiencies. Wheat allergies were associated with a deficiency in vitamin F, which is linoleic acid, and also magnesium. And isn't it interesting that America has an ever increasing amount of people who are becoming either wheat intolerant or celiac, but also 80% of Americans are also magnesium deficient. I'm not saying that taking a magnesium supplement will magically correct a wheat sensitivity, but it may be a piece of the puzzle. Let's talk next about fat allergies. This includes meat fats, milk fats, pork, and all oils. Oftentimes, this can be linked to gallbladder issues or sulfur deficiency. Sulfur becomes depleted when consuming too many fatty foods, and sulfur is a mineral that helps to purify the body from pollutants. So, if you live in a big city and you struggle with digesting fatty foods, you may want to consider what nutrients may need to be added. The tonsils store sulfur and therefore play an important role not only in the immune system but also in fat digestion. Amino acids that are rich in sulfur include methionine, taurine, and glutathione. Herbal support includes dandelion root, burdock, and fennel. Let's talk about milk allergies. Individuals who are deficient in potassium and vitamin D may have a hard time digesting milk products. Personally, I used to struggle with dairy, but when my vitamin D levels are in optimal range, I can tolerate raw goat cheese much better. It's less inflammatory and it's not mucus forming like cow's milk. Citrus allergies. This includes oranges, lemons, grapefruit, tangerines, pineapple, cantaloupe, and tomatoes. Citrus allergies can be linked to a vitamin B5 deficiency, which is also called pantothenic acid. Vitamin B5 is important for the adrenal glands and the lymphatic system. The lymphatic system does not have a pump, so it relies on muscle contraction for proper drainage. However, the adrenal glands act as a pump for the lymph indirectly, and when undergoing stress or trauma, the adrenals burn up pantothenic acid, which is also an important vitamin for the lymphatic system. So, along with B5, calcium and the amino acid serine may also be deficient in those with a citrus sensitivity or citrus allergy. Lastly, let's talk about yeast allergies. I see this a lot, especially in clients with yeast overgrowth in their body, whether it's their small intestine, gallbladder, or ovaries. I've actually had this myself. I notice that they don't tolerate certain foods, such as starchy vegetables like potatoes, nuts and seeds, most grains, and some sugary fruits like cherries, and even dried fruits like raisins or prunes. I always start with tweaking the diet and implementing anti yeast supplements. If after a 4 to 6 month period they still present with yeast, I test for nutrient support to help metabolize the yeast. This includes vitamins B1 and B6, zinc, and lysine. Some yeast supportive herbs include pau d'arco and red clover. One last thing about food sensitivities. Dr. Lepore also noted that if you're deficient in sodium and potassium, you may experience several food sensitivities and allergies, sometimes to the point where your list of safe foods gets smaller and smaller. And here's something most people don't realize: you may eat something today and have a reaction 3 to 4 days later. That's why it's hard to identify triggers without a system like muscle testing. It's not always immediate, and symptoms can show up in unexpected ways. So that's a wrap for today. Your body is always communicating with you. Symptoms, cravings, energy levels, emotional shifts, these are all messages. They're signals. And the more you learn how to listen, the more you realize your body already knows what it needs. That's what I love most about electromagnetic muscle testing. It gives you direct, personalized feedback from your body without the guessing game. And you can use it to assess food compatibility, supplement needs, emotional stressors, environmental triggers, and really anything your body is holding on to energetically. And if you've been stuck in the cycle of food sensitivities, supplement overwhelm, or chronic mystery symptoms, I want you to know this: healing is possible. But it starts with understanding what your body is asking for and what it's asking to let go of. So, whether you're just starting to explore muscle testing or you've been on this journey for a while, I hope this episode helped you feel more confident, more curious, and more connected to your body's wisdom. And if you want to go deeper or get tested, I'd love to support you. You can reach out to schedule a session and ask questions. Thank you so much for being here, and as always, stay empowered, stay curious, and I'll see you next time on the Healing Revolution.